Jay Gurudev, and thank you for joining us today. Again, today we have with us an alchemy expert and an officer of the Vedic Sansthan. So we are discussing about day five from Gurudev's Shri Shri Ravi Shankarji's talk on you and the universe. So let's continue our discussion. So Gurudev said that thoughts are not isolated; they travel as vibrations. How can we scientifically and spiritually understand this phenomenon? Gurudev's statement bridges ancient yogic sciences with the modern physics. In quantum theory, everything vibrates, matter, sound, even thought. Yogic seers long ago recognized the Sankalpa Shakti, the power of intention as an energy wave. Each thought carries a frequency that travels through subtle space or Chidakasha, influencing both the thinker and the environment. Gurudev's explanation points out that meditation refines this frequency. When one meditates deeply, the thought vibrations become coherent, harmonious, and powerful. That's why collective meditation or group intention can bring tangible social changes, lower crime, better emotional climate, and improved ecological balance. The Vedas describe the same principle in verses such as Yad Bhavan Tat Bhavati, as is the feeling, so is the manifestation. This isn't mere philosophy, it is metaphysics grounded in experiential observation. The rishis perceive that the universe is a giant field of consciousness where vibrations from individual minds interact like ripples on water. Mantra Japa and Sankalpa were designed to harness these waves intentionally. Now, when Gurudev says thoughts are vibrations, he invites us to purify our inner frequency. If the mind is agitated, its frequency distorts. If it is calm and centered through Sudarshan Kriya and meditation, its thought waves synchronize with the cosmic intelligence. Thus, both science and spirituality converge on this truth. Consciousness is not confined within the skull, it radiates, communicates, and eco creates reality. And Gurudev simplifies this ancient mystery into practical spirituality. Keep your vibration pure, and the universe will align accordingly. Now, Gurudev mentioned that the mind can transmit without verbal communication. How does this relate to telepathy and intuitive connection? Jagadев, telepathy is not fantasy, it's refined sensitivity. When the mind becomes silent and alert, it transcends sensory dependence. Gurudev often says the subtler you become, the louder the universe speaks. This is why advanced meditators, saints, and even mothers can sense others' emotions or needs without words. The brain's electromagnetic field synchronized to quantum resonance. When two minds share trust, compassion, or devotion, they become like tuning forks vibrating in harmony. That is intuitive communication. Our scriptures refer to this as Hridaya Samvad or heart to heart dialogue. In the Ramayana, Hanuman understood Ram's mind without speech. In Guru Shishya Parampara, disciples often received the teachings through silent transmission or Mauna Diksha. Gurudev revives this lost art during satsang or silent retreats. People often experience spontaneous answers or healing insights, not through logic but transmission of consciousness. Science call it mirror neuron resonance or field coherence, but the Vedas already mapped it as antarjnana or inner knowing. Gurudev's message is simple yet revolutionary. When the mind is pure, intuition becomes natural. You no longer think communication, you feel it. This is the foundation for compassion, leadership, and universal empathy. Gurudev explained that higher beings can communicate through vibration without speech. What does this tell us about the next stage of human evolution? Jagadev, humanity is moving towards subtle communication. Gurudev often says evolution is from gross to subtle, from action to thought, from thought to vibration, and from vibration to silence. The next phase of intelligence won't rely solely on language or technology, but on consciousness synchronization. When one's mind is still, perception becomes direct. Truth is downloaded intuitively. Gurudev's vision is that meditation prepares humanity for the evolutionary leap, telepathic empathy, collective creativity, and peaceful coexistence. In Vedic cosmology, devas communicate through Vritti Shuddhi or pure vibrations. As humans refine awareness, we attune to these divine frequencies. Gurudev says global movement is not just about stress relief, it's preparing the collective psyche for subtle living. Silence, seva, and sadhana polish the antenna of consciousness. Eventually, words become secondary, the soul speaks directly. That is a Satya Yuga consciousness, effortless communication through vibration of truth, or the Satyam Param Dhimahi. Now, Gurudev often said that ancient markings on the forehead, like sandal paste or vibhuti, protect the mind's energy. How do these symbols act energetically and psychologically? Jagada, when we apply sandal paste or vibhuti, it's not superstition but energy engineering. The region between the eyebrows, the Agya chakra, is the command center of awareness. When the body heats up through stress or emotion, this point absorbs energy, disturbing clarity. Sandalwood cools and stabilizes the biomagnetic field. Vibhuti neutralizes negative electromagnetic charge and grounds scattered thought. Gurudev explains that these natural substances are conductors of prana. They prevent energetic leakage from the frontal lobe. Psychologically, the act of applying tilak reminds one of sacred identity. I am consciousness, not chaos. This daily ritual becomes mindfulness in action. The Agama Shastras mention Tripundra and Urdhvapundra as seals of purification. The three lines represent the transcendence of body, mind, and intellect. When one applies vibhuti after bath, it's symbolic cremation of ego. The tilak also works through aromatherapy. Sandals as volatile oils relax the hypothalamus, balancing hormones. Modern biofield imaging shows that the aura stabilizes immediately after such application. Gurudev revives this Vedic hygiene, not just physical cleanliness, but energetic sanitation. It protects the practitioner from psychic entanglement, especially in today's overstimulated world. Now, Gurudev mentioned that constellations of energies in the body mirror those in the cosmos. How does this link with the idea of Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande? That Sanskrit exam means as is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. Gurudev constantly reminds us that every atom of the body is a miniature universe. The movement of planets outside corresponds to rhythms within, the circadian cycle, the hormonal tides, and the breath patterns. When we meditate, internal and external rhythms synchronize. Hence, full moon or eclipse meditations feel deeper. The body is a living temple built on cosmic geometry. Each chakra corresponds to a planet, each organ to an element. Now, the Atharvaveda describes the human frame as a Deva Yagyapita, an altar where all gods or forces of nature reside. The seven chakras parallel the seven planetary spheres. The Vedic astrology or the Jyotisha and Ayurveda are not separate sciences, both study these correspondences. Gurudev's discourse helps modern seekers realize that cosmic harmony begins with the bodily balance. When digestion, breath, and thought move in rhythm, the universe seems to cooperate effortlessly. Thus, inner ecology sustains the outer ecology, a profound message for environmental awareness too. Now, Gurudev spoke about a colony inside of you. What did he mean by that phrase? Yes, he pointed to the microbiome, the living ecosystem of bacteria, enzymes, and cells that coexist within us. Modern science now proves that what the rishis intuited, our body hosts trillions of microorganisms forming a self-regulating colony. Gurudev's insight reframes health as harmony between these inner citizens. Through correct diet, pranayama, and meditation, we maintain diplomatic relations within. Stress, anger, and irregular routines are like civil wars. In that colony, peaceful breaths leads to peaceful biochemistry. Ancient Ayurveda calls this the Sharira Samasya or Purusha or the composite being. Texts like Charak Samhita describe how Agni, Vayu, Jala, Prithvi, and Akasha cooperate inside everybody. When Gurudev says you are a colony, he invites respect for that sacred symbiosis. In Vedic rituals, the food or anna is first offered to Agni before eating. This act balances the internal fire and microbial activity. The spirituality is cellular ecology, awareness transforming biology. Now, Gurudev often emphasized that when one has a guru, fear disappears. Why is the presence of guru such a psychological anchor? Jayodev, fear arises from perceived isolation. I am alone, unsupported. The Guru's presence dissolves that illusion. Gurudev explains that the Guru Tattva is the cosmic intelligence guiding every moment, realizing its companionship replaces anxiety with trust. On a psychological level, the relationship provides secure attachment, the mind's survival circuits calm, enabling creativity and courage in meditation. Remembering the Guru activates mirror neurons that reflect compassion and confidence. Scriptures call the Guru Bhavtarka, the one who ferries across fear or bhaya. In Guru Gita, the Lord Shiva declares that even thinking of the Guru brings protection. When Gurudev says the first person in your consciousness is your Guru, he means that divine awareness stands before you like a lifeguard. Surrender becomes safety, not submission. The Guru's grace aligns prana with dharma. Thus, fear finds no ground. Now, Gurudev linked faith with the nervous system, saying that constant anxiety blocks pranic flow. How can breath based practices heal this? Anxiety contracts the vagus nerve and restricts oxygenation. The Sudarshan Kriya uses rhythmic breathing to reset the system. Gurudev designed it to alternate stimulation and relaxation, restoring coherence between heart and brain. When breath flows freely, prana re educates the body to trust life again. Faith then becomes physiology. In yogic anatomy, prana moves through nadis, fear freezes ida and pingla, disturbing sushumna. Pranayama melts those blocks. Gurudev's kriya is a modern yagya, air as oblation, breath as mantra, and awareness as flame. As breath harmonizes, devotion or shraddha awakens naturally, proving that spirituality begins with neurobiological balance. Now, Gurudev described storms of thought as natural but temporary. How can seekers avoid over identifying with the mental turbulence? By practicing the witness attitude, Gurudev teaches don't fight the storm, become the sky. Thoughts are weather patterns, awareness is the climate. When one anchors attention in breath or mantra, thoughts lose grip. Over time, emotional resilience becomes effortless. Storms still appear, but they cannot uproot peace. The Bhagavad Gita calls the mind as restless as wind. Krishna advises discipline or abhyasa and detachment or vairagya. Gurudev makes these practical through sadhana and seva. The storm then becomes a teacher polishing the diamond of consciousness until serenity shines through. Now, Gurudev often compared awareness to electricity recognizing itself. How does this metaphor reveal non dual understanding? Jai Gurudev, electricity flows through many bulbs, yet it's the same current. Likewise, consciousness animates countless bodies. When Gurudev says awareness recognizes itself, he points to self realization. When the observer and observed merge in deep meditation, that moment comes when there is perception without perceiver, energy becomes aware of its own source. Advaita Vedanta expresses this as Chitta Eva Ananda Rupam. The universe is one electric field of consciousness manifesting as life forms. When ignorance drops, the current knows I was and it was never divided. Gurudev's teachings transform this lofty philosophy into experience through daily silence and seva. Now, Gurudev spoke about a subtle movement of energy at the top of the head. How is this related to the Sahasrara chakra? The crown of the head, the Sahasrara, is the seat of pure consciousness. Gurudev says that when awareness rises to the spine, it blossoms like a thousand petal lotus. Scientifically, this region corresponds to the pineal and pituitary glands that regulate circadian rhythm and hormones. When meditation deepens, electrical activity in the brain becomes coherent, alpha and gamma waves synchronize, giving blissful stillness. Gurudev's description is not poetic imagination, but neurospiritual observation. The moment energy reaches the center, individuality dissolves into universality. In Yoga Vasistha, it is said, when prana rests in the Brahmarandhara, the yogi knows the entire cosmos. The crown is where Susumna Nadi terminates. Vedic rituals symbolically touch this spot during blessings or Shirsa Sparsha. Gurudev revives that inner sacrament. Every meditation is a coronation of consciousness. Now, how does chanting affect the vibration of the brain and heart? The mantra chanting entrains the breath and heartbeat into rhythmic coherence. Gurudev teaches that sound is structured consciousness. Every syllable carries geometry. When chanted with awareness, it massages the vagus nerve, lowers cortisol, and lifts serotonin. Devotees feel serenity because the sound aligns inner frequencies with cosmic resonance. The Rig Veda declares that the Vak is Brahman. The sound was the first manifestation of creation. Gurudev's use of Om Namah Shivaya or Satyam Param Dhimahi rekindles that primordial vibration in temples. Collective chanting amplifies this resonance, cleansing subtle spaces the way wind clears the sky. Now, Gurudev said that the Guru's remembrance itself protects. How does memory become a shield? Generally, memory shapes a neurochemistry. When one recalls the Guru with gratitude, the limbic system releases oxytocin and endorphin, stress hormones drop. Psychologically, the image of the Guru replaces fear with belonging. Gurudev often smiles and says, "Just remember me and relax." That remembrance tunes the brain to safety and guidance. In the Guru Gita, remembering the Guru is itself a mantra. Smara mantra, Guru Smritin. Even thinking brings grace. It functions like an energetic firewall, the vibration of faith. This allows lower impressions. The Guru's name is thus not sentiment, but a protective technology. Now, what is the spiritual significance of physical cleanliness that Gurudev calls hygiene of the ancients? He reminds us that purity is multi-layered, body, breath, and mind. Ancient bathing rituals and were hydrotherapies, the oil massage balanced nervous activity. Gurudev says that a clean body aids a light mind. Regular fasting, kriyas, and clean surroundings preserve pranic luminosity. Shaucha is one of the niyamas in Patanjali Yoga. Water represents the apastattva, washing away tamas. The sandal or the vibhuti incense all disinfect the energy. Gurudev connects these to mental hygiene. Purity of intention is the ultimate cleanliness. Now, Gurudev mentioned that sorrow in earlier times was hygienically managed. What could that mean? Jagadav, he referred to cultural wisdom that allowed emotional release through ritual, the morning chants, the river immersions, the fasting. Such collective expressions prevented psychological stagnation. Today, suppression leads to depression. Ancient hygiene meant a catharsis with sacredness. In Vedic rites, the Shraddha ceremonies transform grief into gratitude. Gurudev revives that view. The sorrow is energy needing direction, not denial. When processed through prayer and meditation, it purifies rather than poisons. Now, why does Gurudev connect devotion with health? Together, devotion opens the heart, triggering parasympathetic calm. Clinical studies on Kriya meditators show lowered blood pressure and improved immunity. Love literally heals. Gurudev calls bhakti the natural state of a relaxed nervous system. Bhakti is described in Narad Sutra as the Amrit Swarupa. It is nectar that sustains vitality. When ego dissolves, the doshas balance. The devotee's glow that Gurudev speaks of is both hormonal and spiritual radiance. Now, Gurudev often asks us to smile through challenges. How does smiling alter energy flow? Gurudev, a smile relaxes facial muscles, signaling safety to the brain stem. Dopamine and serotonin rise instantly. Energetically, the heart chakra expands, improving oxygenation. Gurudev says smile is the curve that strengthens everything. It converts resistance into acceptance. In the Tantra Sara, the face is a gateway of prana. A gentle smile keeps Ida and Pingla balanced. Temple idols of deities always smile. The reflection of inner balance. Gurudev's smiling meditation re-establishes that harmony. Now, how does the silence or mana transform perception? Jagadav, silence is not absence of speech but fullness of awareness. Gurudev's silence courses train perception to expand from verbal to vibrational. After 2 days of mana, auditory cortex quietens, subtler sensations arise, insight replaces analysis. In Mundaka Upanishad, truth is called mana pratipadam, or the seer's revelation when inner noise ceases. Gurudev reintroduces this to modern minds. Silence is the mother of intelligence, not its enemy. Now, Gurudev said energy in your mind can storm or still. How can one consciously choose stillness? Through regulation of breath, diet, and company, the Kriya transforms restless bioelectricity into radiance. Gurudev trains attention like a musician tunes strings. Too tight and it snaps, and too loose and it is dull. Balanced awareness sustains stillness. The Hatha Yoga Pratipapika states that Chale Vata Chalam Chittam control the prana and mind become steady. Gurudev's breathing rhythm is a modern articulation of that sutra. Conscious stillness is mastery over inner weather. Now, Gurudev insists that meditation must integrate into action. How does that synthesis occur? Gurudev, after deep rest, neurons synchronize, decisions making improves. Gurudev calls it dynamic meditation, acting from silence. You respond, not react. Productivity rises with peace. The Gita's vision of Yogasta Kuru Karmani, act established in yoga, is exactly this. Gurudev demonstrates it daily. Immerse activities springing immense activity springing from total stillness. That union is the hallmark of enlightened living. Now, Gurudev said that true intelligence is beyond intellect. How do we distinguish the two? Jagadish, the intellect of the buddhi analyzes the intelligence of the pragya perceives. The intellect compares, judges, and categorizes. The intelligence simply knows. Gurudev explains that intellect functions in duality, the right and wrong, success and failure. But true intelligence arises when the mind is silent and connected to consciousness. For instance, in Sudarshan Kriya, one experiences a state where thoughts pause yet alertness remains. That's the moment of pure intelligence. Modern neuroscience observes that during deep meditation, the prefrontal cortex synchronizes with the limbic brain, balancing emotion and logic. Gurudev reminds us when your mind is clear, intuition becomes your guide. That is a higher intelligence. Vedic philosophy calls this distinction the Viveka and Pragya. In Mundaka Upanishad, it is said that knowledge born of books or the Paroksha Jnana differs from realized wisdom or the Aparoksha Jnana. Gurudev carries this wisdom and the ancient teaching into lived experience. The intellect may tell us that fire burns, intelligence makes us feel its warmth directly. Thus, Gurudev's path transforms theoretical spirituality into experiential realization. Now, Gurudev said that when intention and attention align, miracles happen. How does this principle operate spiritually and scientifically? Jagadev, intention or sankalpa is the seed, attention is the sunlight. Gurudev often demonstrates that a pure intention backed by unwavering attention manifests effortlessly because nature supports coherence. Scientifically, this aligns with the quantum principle of observation affecting outcome. Focus awareness collapses possibilities and probabilities into reality. When the heart's electromagnetic field harmonizes with mental clarity, creation follows. In meditation, one experiences stillness where intention gets encoded into universal intelligence. Gurudev explains if the desire arises from purity, the universe rushes to fulfill it. In the Rig Veda, it is said, the Manasa Eva Idam Aptam. Everything is attained through mind. Ancient rituals performed as a Sankalpa before Yajna, focusing energy into the cosmos. Gurudev has revived this principle in modern context, urging people to meditate before making important decisions so that the Sankalpa emerges from stillness, not anxiety. Thus, intention in alignment with awareness becomes divine will in motion. Now, Gurudev said, you are not your thoughts. How does one practically realize this truth? During meditation, one observes that the thoughts arise and vanish like clouds, yet the observer, the consciousness, remains the untouched. Where the beautifully says, just as waves rise and fall on the ocean, thoughts come and go in you, the vast sky. When a person identifies with thoughts, suffering begins. When awareness stands apart, freedom dawns. Practically, this comes through daily kriya and mindfulness. Over time, neuroplastic changes occur in the brain. Activity in the default mode network reduces, making identification with thoughts weaker. The Kathopanishad describes the self as a rider and the mind as reins. Gurudev simplifies this eternal wisdom. You drive the mind, don't let the mind drive you. When this separation is experienced, life becomes light. You are no longer drowned in emotion, you float in awareness. That is the mark of an awakened mind. Now, what is the relationship between karma and intention according to Gurudev? Jagadav, karma is action impregnated with intention. Gurudev explains that two identical actions can have opposite karmic consequences depending on the intent behind them. If done selflessly, karma liberates. If done for ego, it binds. For example, feeding someone out of compassion creates positive karma, but doing it for praise creates dependency. Gurudev teaches us to act joyfully without craving results. The Karma Yoga, scientifically, this aligns with cognitive behavioral understanding. Pure intention alters hormonal and neurological responses, enhancing resilience. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Gurudev often quotes this verse and adds intention purifies the karma. The Sankalpa Shakti determines the trajectory of destiny when action flows from inner silence. Karma dissolves instead of multiplying. Hence, right intention is a spiritual alchemy. Now, Gurudev stated the body is a temple of consciousness. How do we maintain it as sacred? Jagadev, our body is biochemical reflection of consciousness. Gurudev calls it a rented house given by nature. Regular yoga, pranayama, the sattvic food and rest make the temple clean. He emphasizes gratitude toward the body, neither indulgence nor neglect. When treated with reverence, the body becomes a conduit for higher awareness. In research or Kriya practitioners, the biomarkers such as cortisol and inflammation decrease, showing physiological sanctity. In Vedic ritual, the Deha Devalaya means the body as a shrine. The fasting or upvas and purification rites, the snana or the japa, were designed to align prana with divine rhythm. Gurudev embodies that ideal using this body for seva and sadhana, not just pleasure. The temple remains sacred through purpose, not possession. Now, Gurudev said that surrender is the highest intelligence. How does surrender empower rather than weaken? Surrender or Sharanagati is not defeat, it's alignment. Gurudev explains when you surrender, you stop swimming against the current of life. The ego exhausts itself trying to control outcomes. Surrender releases energy back into creativity. Psychological studies show that trust and acceptance reduce stress responses and improve decision making in art of living. Surrender is not passive, it's a dynamic relaxation. In Ramayana, Hanuman is the embodiment of surrender, strongest when humble. Gurudev says surrender is strength where that doesn't shout. In Bhakti Sutra, Narada calls it Param Prem Rupa. True surrender fuses individual will with divine intelligence. It's the secret of effortless success. Now, Gurudev mentioned that gratitude multiplies abundance. How does this subtle law work? Gratitude shifts the frequency of the mind. Gurudev says, whatever you thank expands. When you express gratitude, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, making you receptive. The universe reflects that inner abundance through outer circumstances. Practicing gratitude daily rewires attention from lack to fullness. In Vedic yajnas, Ahuti was always followed by Swaha, offering with gratitude. Gurudev connects that symbolism to daily life. Each breath, each meal is an offering. When you live in gratitude, the karma purifies and blessings flow naturally. It is both a spiritual and psychological law. Gurudev said that energy follows thought. How does this guide meditation practice? Wherever attention goes, energy flows. Gurudev teaches that focus awareness on breath and mantra channels prana to higher centers. Distracted thought scatters energy, causing fatigues during Sudarshan Kriya. Rhythmic breathing gathers energy and redirects it toward calmness. This aligns with neuroplasticity. The brain strengthens circuits it uses most. In Yoga Vasistha, consciousness is described as both the mover and the moved. Gurudev translates that you are the source of the energy you chase. Thus, disciplined thought becomes tapas or austerity. Meditation is not effort to stop thoughts, it is an artful redirection of energy toward the infinite. Now, Gurudev spoke of coffee karma humorously. What lesson does it carry? When Gurudev joked about the coffee karma, he illustrated the cycle of dependency. Every action creates its echo. If one drinks coffee to cure a headache caused by coffee, the loop continues spiritually. This means a self centered bondage and self created bondage. The remedy lies in awareness, not substitution. Observing craving dissolves it in Nyaya Darshan. Cause and effect or karya karana bind until awareness breaks the change. Gurudev says humor teaches detachment. Enjoy the coffee, but don't let it rule you. The wise act freely without addiction. That's liberation from mundane karma. Now, Gurudev said that awareness is both the observer and the observed. What is the experiential meaning of this? In deep meditation, the duality between the seer and the seen collapses. Gurudev describes it as waves recognizing they are water. When perception ceases to fragment, bliss arises naturally. This is the Advaitic experience where consciousness mirrors itself. Brain studies on long term meditators show that Kama synchrony, reflecting unity of cognition, the Mandukya Upanishad calls the state Turiya, the fourth dimension beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Gurudev gives a living taste of Turiya through effortless meditation. When observer and observed unite, creation and creator are one. That realization is enlightenment. Now, Gurudev mentioned the three vines or energy lines on the forehead. What is the spiritual and physiological significance of these three lines? Gurudev's reference to three vines, visible as symbolic lines on the forehead, points to the three channels of prana, the Ida and the Pingla and the Sushumna. These are not merely mystical concepts but subtle neuroenergetic pathways regulating our mental and physical equilibrium. The Ida governs the lunar cooling energy linked to the parasympathetic nervous system. The Pingla controls the solar active energy, the sympathetic system, and the Sushumna represents the balance or the awareness in stillness. Gurudev explains that when these three align, clarity and intuitive strength bloom. When misaligned, confusion and agitation dominate. Applying sacred ashes or sandal paste, as he noted, brings awareness to this region, harmonizing both hemispheres of the brain and maintaining energetic hygiene. In Shaiva and Vaishnava agamas, the horizontal lines of Vibhuti or Tilak symbolize dissolution of ego, purification of intellect, and awakening of divine knowledge. Gurudev revives this tradition not as ritual but as energy management. Ancient seers mapped these points through meditation, knowing that forehead applications stabilize mental vibrations. Modern research shows cooling agents like sandalwood reduce neural activity in the prefrontal cortex, enhancing meditation. Thus, Gurudev's explanation bridges inner energy science and outer physiology, teaching us that sacred markings are reminders to keep our consciousness centered and unentangled from others. Gurudev said, don't let your mind get attached to another's mind. How is this possible in today's interconnected digital world? Gurudev's statement addresses the energetic entanglement of minds. With constant social interaction, screens, and emotional sharing, our energy fields overlap unconsciously through Sudarshan Kriya and meditation. One develops an inner firewall of prana that filters external impressions. Gurudev often says, be 100% with everyone, yet remain untouched inside. The practice creates inner space where empathy exists without emotional drainage. In Vedic psychology, this is called the Manonigraha, the restraint of mind. The tilak or sacred line across the forehead acts as a symbolic boundary, preserving one's inner sanctity. Gurudev's teaching is highly relevant today when social media amplifies comparison and envy. By maintaining the swastika or the staying centered in the self, we prevent external thought currents from disturbing mental peace. The meditation thus becomes the most advanced digital hygiene. Now, Gurudev described the body as a colony inside you. What does this reveal about self awareness and modern microbiome science? When Gurudev says you have a colony inside you, he hinted at both the spiritual microcosm and biological truth. A body hosts trillions of microorganisms forming the gut brain axis, now proven to affect mood, immunity, and perception. Spiritually, it's a reminder that the body is not you, but a dynamic ecosystem sustained by universal intelligence. Gurudev invites us to marvel at this orchestration rather than identify with it. The Atharva Veda mentions that countless entities inhabit our bodies and that harmony among them sustains the health. Gurudev says insight reawakens that awareness, seeing the body as sacred and self regulating. Ayurveda too considers the digestion of the Agni and the elimination of the malas as signs of cosmic balance. Gurudev connects the modern science with Vedic perception. Both affirm that awareness and gratitude toward this living colony enhance well being and immunity. Meditation stabilizes the inner ecosystems through calm breathing and balanced prana flow. Now, Gurudev said that whoever has a guru has no problem. What is the deeper meaning behind this assurance? When Gurudev says this, he speaks from the plane of consciousness. The presence of a guru does not eliminate life's challenges but removes the inner resistance. The guru represents the awakened self within. Through trust, once his perception transforms, problems appear as opportunities. Gurudev often reminds Guru means the one who removes the darkness. When the light of awareness shines, even difficulties become pathways to growth. In the Guru Gita, it is said the Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara. The Guru principle is universal intelligence embodied in human form. Gurudev redefines the Guru not as authority but as guidance. Like a lighthouse in stormy seas, when the mind anchors in that light, the fear dissolves. Thus, the Guru is both a spiritual lifeguard and a reminder of divine companionship, ensuring that no seeker ever truly walks alone. Gurudev mentioned that when the Guru calls, the fear vanishes. How does that connect to faith and neuroscience? Faith activates the courage. Gurudev says when the Guru calls, you move from fear to freedom. Spiritually, this reflects surrender to higher intelligence. Scientifically, faith reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Devotees often report physiological calmness when remembering or hearing Gurudev's voice during anxiety. This shows that divine remembrance reprograms the nervous system. In the Bhakti Yoga, remembrance of the smaranam of the Guru's name or form brings instant composure. The Upanishads say, where there is faith, there is strength. Gurudev embodies this teaching by guiding seekers to shift trust from ego to consciousness. When that shift happens, fear becomes redundant because one realizes, I am protected, I am guided, I am not alone. This is the essence of divine assurance in every tradition. Now, Gurudev explained that the Guru acts like a lifeguard during the journey of consciousness. What does this metaphor mean? Gurudev's metaphor of the Guru as a lifeguard perfectly illustrates the spiritual safety net available to every seeker. Just as a lifeguard stands alert, ready to save a swimmer who loses balance, the Guru's awareness remains vigilant for the disciple. When one meditates or experiences inner turbulence, the Guru's grace operates silently, preventing one from drowning in emotional or karmic waves. Many art living practitioners describe moments during intense meditation where a sudden peace envelops them as though an invisible presence has steadied their mind. That is the Guru principle or the Guru Tattva. In Vedic symbolism, the Guru is Taran Tattva or the energy that ferries the soul across the ocean of samsara. In the Guru Gita, it is said the Guru Bandhur, Guru Mata, Guru Pitacha, Guru Evacha. The Guru is the parent, friend, and the protector. Gurudev's analogy brings this ancient idea into modern terms. When one is guided by the Guru, the fear, confusion, and doubt dissolve. The Guru doesn't swim for you, he teaches you how to float by reminding you that you are water itself. Hence, divine companionship transforms the seeker's journey from struggle to effortless guide to life's waves. Now, Gurudev emphasized that no fear is a very good process. How does fearlessness evolve through spiritual practice? Jaydev Gurudev says that fear is a shadow of ignorance. The more you know yourself, the less fear can exist. Through Sudarshan Kriya, once his nervous system releases stored impressions that generate anxiety, breathing practices regulate the vagal tone, reducing panic responses. Meditation expands awareness beyond the physical body. Once you experience yourself as a consciousness, what is there to fear? Fearlessness is not recklessness, it is peace amidst uncertainty. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, the seeker prays, Abhihi ma bhuya, may I become fearless. Gurudev brings that prayer alive through experiential wisdom. Faith in the Guru, awareness of impermanence, and surrender to divine intelligence dissolve fear at its root. The Vedas declare, Yato bhayam tat divityam iva bhavati. Fear arises from duality. Gurudev helps us transcend duality. Thus, ending for this is not heretical, it is a lived serenity. Now, Gurudev spoke about ancient practices that maintain both physical and mental hygiene. How can modern society reclaim that? Jagadev Gurudev highlighted how traditions like applying sandal paste, chanting mantras, or using sacred ash were ancient neuroenergetic methods to center awareness. Today, we must reinterpret these rituals as daily mindfulness tools. For example, chanting Om Namah Shivaya harmonizes breathing and activates the parasympathetic system. Applying sandalwood on the forehead cools the nervous system and focuses attention. Such small acts practiced consciously realign us with the sacred rhythm. The Vedas integrate hygiene of Deha, or the body and mind, or the Manas, and Atma, or the spirit. Gurudev revives this trinity in modern context through yoga, Sudarshan Kriya, Seva, and meditation. Rituals like morning ablutions, the Snana, and the Sandhya Vandanam, or the Gayatri Japa were designed to synchronize biological cycles with cosmic rhythm. Gurudev's work bridges these sciences, turning rituals into living awareness. By reviving such habits, society heals from stress, chaos, and spiritual disconnection. Now, Gurudev reminded that the universe is amazing in its design. How can awe and wonder contribute to spiritual growth? Gurudev encourages seekers to observe creation with wonder, not analysis. When you marvel at this intelligence behind the flower or a galaxy, your mind transcends ego and merges with the cosmic creativity. Neuroscience confirms that awe expands perception and reduces self focus. Gurudev says meditations cultivate that state of wonder which keeps the heart innocent and the intellect sharp. In the Isha Upanishad, it is said, Ishwaswam idam sarvam. Everything is pervaded by the divine. Wonder or Vismaya is the doorway to devotion. Gurudev often says, if you stop being amazed, you stop growing. The ancients maintained awe to rituals observing sunrise, moon cycles, or silence in temples. Gurudev revives that culture, teaching us to see the sacred in every molecule. Awe thus becomes a silent meditation in motion. Now, Gurudev said that when consciousness expands, individuality remains but ego dissolves. How is this experience? Expansion of consciousness does not erase personality, it refines it. Gurudev compares this to a drop realizing it is the ocean, yet still retaining its individuality as form. In higher states of meditation, one feels vast yet intimate, powerful yet humble. The ego born of separation melts and compassion arises naturally. The individual then becomes an instrument of the universal. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the wise see the same self in a Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, or a dog. Gurudev embodies that vision, seeing unity in diversity. Ego is the crust around consciousness through spiritual practices. That trust softens, individuality remains as expression of divine play or the Leela, but ownership vanishes as such balances enlightenment in action, being in the world yet untouched by it. Now, Gurudev spoke about how intention and awareness together form the core of creation. Could you elaborate on how this understanding influences the spiritual practice and daily life? Gurudev is teaching that intention of the Sankalpa and awareness of the Chaitanya are the two pillars of creation is a profound key to understanding karma and manifestation. Awareness is the substratum, the pure consciousness that witnesses everything, while intention is the impulse that shapes reality within it. When awareness is dull, even a strong intention cannot manifest properly, just as a seed cannot sprout in a dry soil. But when awareness is pure and steady through meditation, pranayama, and seva, even a gentle intention gains immense power. Gurudev often says a sincere intention from a pure heart never fails. In daily life, this means our focus should be on purifying awareness rather than endlessly chasing desires. When the mind is calm and centered, right intentions naturally arise and materialize effortlessly. From the Vedic lens, this is beautifully echoed in the Rig Veda, the Tat Ekam, from the one consciousness, all intentions arise. The Sankalpa Sutra performed before Yagyas begins with the awareness of the infinite and only then expresses a personal wish. Gurudev reintroduces this ancient order into modern spirituality. Most people live a reversed. They begin with desire and forget awareness. That leads to exhaustion and karmic entanglement. But then, when awareness precedes intention, action becomes worship and results align with dharma. Gurudev's explanation also aligns with quantum physics, where observation collapses potential into reality. Awareness is the observer, intention is the wave function, and manifestation is the collapse through Sudarshan Kriya and meditation. Gurudev trains practitioners to dwell in awareness first, then act with clarity. In this state, even mundane actions like speaking, teaching, or eating become powerful offerings. This union of intention and awareness transforms ordinary living into divine participation in the cosmic play of creation. Now, Gurudev beautifully mentioned that the whole universe is an expression of consciousness playing with itself. How should one understand this from both a scientific and spiritual standpoint? Gurudev's statement that the universe is consciousness playing with itself is one of the most elegant expressions of non duality. In spiritual terms, it reflects the Advaita Vedanta view. There is no real separation between creator and creation. The same consciousness that manifests as your thoughts also appears as trees, stars, and galaxies. Gurudev invites us to shift perception from I am a small being in a vast world to the entire universe is within my consciousness. When this shift happens, fear dissolves and wonder awakens. Even challenges are seen as divine play or lila, not punishment or chaos. Meditation deepens this realization. When the mind becomes still, one perceives that everything, movement, sound, light, arises and dissolves within awareness itself. Now, from the Vedic standpoint and viewpoint, Gurudev's insight echoes the Upanishadic truth of the Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All this is indeed Brahman. In modern scientific terms, consciousness is the field from which the matter emerges, similar to how quantum physics suggests that observation affects particles and brings the potential into manifestation. Ancient seers intuitively understood this. They saw consciousness not as a byproduct of the brain but as a substratum of existence. The Nasadiya Sukta of the Rig Veda even describes the moment before creation as consciousness turning upon itself, awareness becoming aware, and Gurudev bridges this ancient wisdom with contemporary understanding, showing how science and spirituality are two languages describing one truth. He says the universe is not outside of you, it is made of you. Recognizing this unity dissolves loneliness, greed, and violence. When we see others as expressions of the same consciousness, compassion naturally flows. Thus, Gurudev's teaching transforms philosophy into living experience, a joyous participation in the divine cosmic play. Now, Gurudev spoke about the three lines on the forehead, explaining how ancient people applied vibhuti on or sandal paste to maintain mental balance. Could you elaborate on the scientific and spiritual significance of this practice? Yes, Jagodev, the Gurudev's perception about the three lines is profoundly symbolic and practical. The human forehead corresponds to the Agya Chakra or the command center associated with the clarity, intuition, and mental focus. When one applies sandalwood paste or vibhuti or the sacred ash, it cools the nervous system and stimulates this chakra, reducing overthinking and agitation. The three lines symbolize the harmony of Ida, Pingla, and Sushumna. The three primary energy channels are nadis. When balanced, the three channels maintain emotional equilibrium, enhance awareness, and prevent one's energy from getting entangled with external vibrations. Gurudev beautifully described how this ancient practice was a form of energetic hygiene, preventing the mind from sticking to others' thoughts or emotions. In today's terms, it's like maintaining your own mental bandwidth amidst the noise of the world. From a Vedic and Ayurvedic perspective, the three horizontal lines of Vibhuti represent the transcendence of the three gunas, the sattva, the purity, the rajas, or the activity, and tamas, or the inertia. Applying these lines reminds the seeker that their true nature lies beyond these qualities. In pure consciousness, the ashes themselves signify detachment. Everything material eventually returns to dust. When Gurudev mentions that these lines protect one's mind from merging with others, he is referring to subtle energy interactions. Ancient rishis were aware that thoughts carry frequency, thus sacred substances like sandal paste or ash acted as insulator, strengthening one's aura. Modern science partially echoes this through biofield studies and electromagnetic resonance. Moreover, the fragrance of sandalwood activates the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting calmness. In essence, this small ritual integrates body, mind, and spirit, grounding awareness in the present. Gurudev revives such traditions not as superstition but as timeless neuroenergetic wisdom that modern humanity can still benefit from profoundly. Now, Gurudev mentioned that those who have a guru never face fear, comparing the guru to a lifeguard. How does this idea influence a seeker's spiritual and emotional journey? Gurudev's metaphor of the guru as a lifeguard is both simple and deeply transformative. In the ocean of life, filled with waves of joy, sorrow, confusion, and uncertainty, the guru serves as that constant presence who ensures that seeker does not drown in their own emotions or ignorance. Fear arises when we feel separate from truth, from purpose, and from the divine. A guru's grace re-establishes that connection. When Gurudev says, when you exist in the body, the first person to come into your consciousness is your guru, he points to an inner awakening where the guru's presence becomes a living guiding force within. This inner relationship gives one courage and clarity. The guru's wisdom acts as an anchor. Even in turbulent times, a seeker feels secure knowing that a higher consciousness is steering their journey. It's not dependency but deep trust that blossoms into self mastery. Now, from a Vedic standpoint, the Guru is not merely a teacher. The Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. The Guru embodies the creative and the sustaining and the transmitter forces of the cosmos. The Upanishads declare that Acharya Purusho Veda. Only who has a teacher truly knows. This points to the necessity of guidance in transcending the ignorance. Fear or the bhaya originates from duality or dvitijya bhayam bhavati. The moment one perceives separation from the divine, the fear arises. A guru dissolves that illusion by awakening knowledge of jnana and devotion or bhakti. In practical life, this manifests as a calm inner strength. Even in the face of challenges, the seeker feels protected, as though an invisible hand guides every step. Gurudev's lifeguard analogy thus bridges modern psychology and ancient metaphysics, emphasizing that the guru is both the protector and awakener of consciousness. To live in remembrance of the guru is to live free from fear, anchored in divine assurance. Now, Gurudev emphasized that when there is no guru in life, one cannot achieve what one truly seeks. How does the guru disciple relationship facilitate transformation and self realization? Gurudev's statement reveals the spiritual truth that the Guru is not just a person but a living embodiment of consciousness that mirrors the seeker's highest potential. In the absence of a Guru, one may have knowledge but lack direction. Like a boat without a compass, the Guru provides clarity, removing layers of conditioning, ego, and confusion that clouds the inner light. When Gurudev says, without a Guru there is no hope, he means that guidance is essential for crossing the ocean of the mind. Practices such as Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, and self inquiry are potent, but without proper initiation and grace, they remain mere techniques. The Guru infuses these practices with spirit. The disciples' devotion acts as a channel through which divine wisdom flows. Over time, the Guru's presence becomes internalized. One begins to act, think, and feel from the same state of equanimity the Guru embodies. Transformation thus happens effortlessly from imitation to realization. Now, in the Vedic tradition, the Guru Shishya Parampara is sacred because it represents the transmission of the Brahma Vidya or the knowledge of the self through direct experience. The Guru is described as a Tattvadarshi or the seer of truth who dispels the darkness, the Gu through light or the Ru. In the Mundaka Upanishad, a student approaches a realized master with a wood in hand, symbolizing humility and readiness to serve. This surrender allows energy transmission or the Shakti part, where the Guru's consciousness ignites the same awareness in the seeker. Without that catalytic presence, self effort can only take one so far. Gurudev modernizes this timeless process, making it accessible to global audiences through experiential wisdom. In practical life, having a guru means one has a mirror for self reflection, a protector from spiritual pitfalls, and a source of unconditional love. This relationship is not about dependence but liberation, where the disciple eventually realizes Guru, God, and self are one. Now, Gurudev spoke about how ancient practices maintain mental hygiene, preventing one's mind from attaching to others. How does this concept apply in today's world dominated by social media and emotional entanglement? Gurudev's insight into mental hygiene is strikingly relevant in our digital era. Just as physical hygiene prevents disease, mental hygiene protects our emotional and spiritual well being. In ancient times, applying sandal paste or vibhuti acted as both an energetic shield and a reminder to remain centered. Today, the constant bombardment of information, opinions, and emotions on social media often creates mental pollution. Our energy field becomes porous, absorbing stress, comparison, and judgment from others. Gurudev reminds us that through daily spiritual practice like meditation, Sudarshan Kriya, and moments of silence, we can purify the mind and restore inner balance. When the mind is clean, awareness is sharp and unclouded, we stop reacting impulsively and begin responding consciously. Mental hygiene is thus not withdrawal from the world, but maintaining clarity and noise. In the Vedic worldview, thoughts are forms of energy. Every interaction creates an exchange of vibrations, as some uplifting, some draining. Ancient rishis knew that maintaining one's pranic integrity was essential for spiritual growth. The practice of marking the forehead, wearing tulsi or rudraksha beads, or chanting mantras served as energetic boundaries, preventing unnecessary entanglement. Gurudev interprets this wisdom for modern life, where emotional contagion is amplified through digital networks. The more we scroll, the more we subconsciously absorb others' mental states. Regular sadhana acts as a spiritual detox, much like clearing cache memory from a device. The Ayurveda and Yoga further teach that purity of food, or the ahara, the speech, or the vihara, and the vichara and company of the sangha influence one's mental clarity. Gurudev's approach combines these ancient safeguards with modern mindfulness, offering tools to remain inwardly strong and outwardly compassionate. Thus, mental hygiene today means living with awareness, filtering what enters the mind, much as we filter what we breathe and eat. Now, Gurudev explained that the forehead is a key energetic center and that applying sacred substances helps stabilize the mind. Could you explain the connection between the Akya Chakra, the brain functions, and the spiritual awareness? Together, the Akya Chakra, or the command center located between the eyebrows, governs intuition, perception, and higher awareness. Gurudev's teaching about the three lions on the forehead draws our attention to this crucial energy point. In yogic physiology, the Agya Chakra acts as the bridge between intellect and intuition, the seat of inner guidance. When this chakra is balanced, thoughts are clear, emotions stable, and decisions align with higher intelligence. Gurudev often says that the mind becomes calm when calmness and awareness rest at the brow center. From a scientific viewpoint, this area corresponds to the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision making, empathy, and emotional regulation. Applying the sandal paste or vibhuti not only has a cooling and grounding effect, but symbolically reminds one to stay centered and alert. Meditation and breathing techniques like Sudarshan Kriya also stimulate the region, synchronizing both hemispheres of the brain and activating coherent neural patterns. This alignment is the basis of spiritual clarity, where intellect serves awareness rather than dominates it. Now, from the Vedic perspective, the Agya Chakra represents the divine eye, the doorway to jnana or wisdom. It is where duality dissolves and unity consciousness begins. Ancient scriptures like the Shandilya Upanishad describe how focusing awareness here awakens the faculty of intuitive understanding beyond logic. When Gurudev connects this with applying sacred ash or sandalwood, he points to a profound synthesis, external ritual supporting internal awakening. In Ayurveda, sandalwood's cooling nature balances the pitta dosha, soothing emotional heat like anger and restlessness. Spiritually, the mark on the forehead is a declaration of remembrance that one's mind belongs to the divine, not to worldly distraction. The Agya Chakra thus becomes a beacon guiding the seeker from mental turbulence to divine vision. Gurudev's modern articulation makes this ancient science accessible, showing that true focus is not concentration but effortless awareness rooted in the center of consciousness. Now, Gurudev mentioned that when one connects deeply with the Guru, fear disappears and life feels guided. How does this connection influence the neuropsychological and spiritual dimensions of the mind? Jagadav, the relationship between guru and disciple is a profound neurological and spiritual phenomenon. Gurudev explains that when one feels the living presence of the guru, fear dissolves because the mind no longer perceives isolation. From a neuropsychological standpoint, fear arises from the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. When trust, devotion, and surrender develop through the guru's grace, the prefrontal cortex, associated with reasoning and higher awareness, begins to regulate the amygdala's activity. This leads to a balanced emotional state and the ability to face challenges with calmness. Gurudev's techniques such as Sudarshan Kriya and meditation strengthen this neurological harmony, producing measurable effects on brain waves and hormones like serotonin and oxytocin. Spiritually, this connection transcends the physical plane. The Guru becomes an inner compass, a vibration of pure awareness that aligns the disciple's mind with cosmic intelligence. The disciple experiences guidance not as thought but as intuitive knowing, the Guru's voice resonating in silence. In Vedic philosophy, the Guru disciple bond is described as Hridaya Samyoga, the meeting of hearts beyond space and time. The Guru Tattva is not confined to form, it is a principle of divine consciousness manifesting as guidance. The Kathopanishad declares only to the guidance of a teacher does the truth reveal itself, like fire hidden in wood. When Gurudev says that the Guru is like a lifeguard, he implies that divine consciousness actively safeguards the seeker's journey. This relationship purifies the Manomaya and the Vijnanamaya koshas, the mental and wisdom sheets, thereby removing karmic imprints that create fear and confusion. Modern science affirms that devotion and trust produce coherent heart rhythms, promoting emotional stability and cognitive clarity. Thus, the connection with the Guru harmonizes both brain and spirit, bridging individual and universal consciousness. Gurudev's presence operates like an invisible current of grace, guiding, healing, and awakening the disciple to their own infinite potential. Now, Gurudev often emphasizes that the body itself is a colony of intelligence. How should we understand this in light of modern biology and ancient Vedic wisdom? Jaydev, when Gurudev says you have a colony inside you, he points to the profound interconnectedness of life within us. The human body is not a single entity but a living ecosystem of trillions of cells, microbes, and biochemical networks communicating constantly. Modern microbiome research reveals that nearly 90% of the cells in our body are microbial, invisible yet vital, lies in digestion, immunity, and mental balance. Gurudev's insight predates this scientific understanding. He teaches that consciousness pervades every cell. Our body is a symphony of intelligence sustained by an unseen harmony. When we live in alignment with nature through sattvic food, pranayama, meditation, and gratitude, this colony thrives. Stress, toxins, and negative emotions, on the other hand, disrupt the intelligent cooperation. Spiritual practices from the art of living strengthen this internal communication, aligning the body's rhythms with their cosmic intelligence. Now, the Vedas describe the body as Pinda, a microcosm of the Brahmanda or the universe. Each organ corresponds to a cosmic principle, the heart as the sun, the breath as wind, and the digestive fire as the Agni. This interrelation forms the basis of Ayurvedic medicine. Gurudev's reference to so many actions happening reminds us that the body is divine machinery operating through the three doshas of the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and the three subtle nadis in rituals, the forehead markings, and sacred ash also balance subtle energies, maintaining harmony among these systems. The body's intelligence is not mechanical but spiritual. The Atman orchestrates every function silently. When Gurudev says the universe is amazing, he invites awe not only for outer space but for the cosmos within our own skin. Modern science now echoes this as seeing humans not as isolated organisms but as ecosystems of intelligent collaboration. Thus, both ancient seers and modern researchers converge on one truth: life is sustained by an invisible conscious intelligence that connects all beings. Now, Gurudev mentioned that the three lines on the forehead symbolize protection of the mind. How does this symbolize and symbolism relate to the yogic understanding of Ida, Pingla, and Sushumna nadis? Jagata, the three lines Gurudev referred to are not merely decorative, they are powerful symbols of energy alignment. In yogic science, the Ida, the Pingla, and the Sushumna are the three principal channels through which the prana or the life force flows. The Ida represents the lunar, cooling, and feminine energy associated with the left nostril and the parasympathetic system. The Pingla embodies the solar, heating, and masculine energy linked to the right nostril and sympathetic system. The Sushumna is the central channel of balance that runs through the spine, connecting the base to the crown. When Gurudev spoke about these three lines not crossing, he meant the equilibrium between emotion, action, and awareness. The application of vibhuti or sandal paste across the forehead is a physical reminder to keep one's energy centered and harmonized. Through pranayama, meditation, and sudarshan kriya, one brings these nadis into perfect synchronization, leading to heightened clarity and peace. In Vedic tantric traditions, this alignment of these three channels is the foundation of Kundalini awakening the Tripurandra. The three sacred lines of Vibhuti represents the sublimation of the three gunas, the Sattva, Rajas, and the Tamas, and the transcendence of material bondage. The Ida corresponds to the Ganga, the Pingla to Yamuna, and the Sushumna to the Saraswati, together symbolizing the sacred confluence of the Triveni Sangam. Gurudev's reference to this ancient symbolism reminds us how ritual and physiology were once inseparable. Applying sacred markings helps stabilize the Agya chakra and focus the mind inward, reducing external distractions. Modern research on neural coherence reflects this inner alignment. Balanced hemispheric activity corresponds to the activation of Sushumna Nadi. Hence, what ancient rishis expressed through ritual, Gurudev translates as neuroenergetic wisdom. The tree lines are thus not just protection but a map of internal evolution, guiding one from duality to oneness, from thought to pure awareness. Now, Gurudev said that applying sacred ash or sandal paste ensures that one's mind doesn't get attached to others' minds. How does this reflect both energetic protection and emotional boundaries in spiritual life? Gurudev's statement beautifully captures the subtle mechanics of energy exchange that occur in human interactions. Every thought and emotion carries a frequency, and when we engage with people, even digitally, we unconsciously absorb their mental vibrations. Over time, this leads to emotional exhaustion, anxiety, or confusion. The practice of applying vibhuti or sandal paste on the forehead acts as an energetic seal. It reminds the practitioner to stay anchored within their own awareness, not swayed by external influences. Gurudev often compares the mind to a sponge that absorbs impressions. Therefore, cleansing and protecting it daily is vital. In the art of living tradition, meditation, pranayama, and chanting perform this function internally, while sacred markings and rituals reinforce it externally. Just as we apply sunscreen to protect the skin from radiation, the spiritual practices shield our subtle body from energetic overload. Now, in Vedic philosophy, the concept of energy protection is deeply rooted in the understanding of the aura or the pranamaya kosha. The human psychology and the energy field extend several feet around the body, interacting with the environment continuously. Sacred substances like vibhuti and sandalwood contain high vibrational purity derived from the fire of the Agni Tattva and the earth or the Prithvi Tattva. When applied on the Agya chakra, they stabilize the prana flow and strengthen the aura, creating a barrier against negative influences. Gurudev has mentioned that your mind should not get attached to others' minds, aligns with the ancient idea of manonigraha, mastery over the mind. In modern psychological terms, it parallels maintaining healthy emotional boundaries and energetic sovereignty. The ancient sages designed these rituals as tools for both subtle protection and mindfulness. Through such practices, one learns to engage compassionately without losing one's centeredness. Gurudev's teachings reinterpret these timeless truths, blending spiritual science with modern relevance, enabling seekers to stay peaceful, grounded, and unaffected even amidst collective turbulence. Now, Gurudev mentioned that the universe is amazing and that ancient people intuitively knew how to align with cosmic intelligence. How can we interpret this in the context of modern science and Vedic cosmology? Jagadav, when Gurudev marvels that the universe is amazing, he is not just expressing awe, he is pointing us toward awareness of the deep intelligence that governs in creation. Every process in nature, from planetary orbits to the functioning of a single cell, operates with astounding precision. Modern physics now acknowledges that matter is not alert, it's pulsating with energy, guided by subtle fields and forces that seem almost intelligent. Gurudev reminds us that this intelligence is not external, it's the same consciousness that animates us. The human nervous system, when purified through practices like meditation, pranayama, and silence, becomes capable of tuning into this universal rhythm. The ancients expressed this realization through rituals, mantras, and sacred geometry, all designed to harmonize human life with cosmic order. Gurudev bridges this timeless understanding with modern scientific insight, showing that spirituality is not separate from science, but it's a deeper essence, the science of consciousness. Now, from the Vedic standpoint, the universe of the Brahmanda, and the human being of the Pinda mirror one another. Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, the rishis perceived that every aspect of creation vibrates in harmony with divine law or Ratha. This cosmic order is not mechanical but conscious. The Rig Veda speaks of Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb of creation, as the source of both material and spiritual worlds. Gurudev's observation about ancient wisdom reflects how the seers encoded cosmological knowledge in temple architecture, rituals, and even body markings. The three horizontal lines, for instance, represent the triadic forces of creation, preservation, and dissolution. Modern astrophysics and quantum theory now echo these principles, describing a universe that is participatory, interconnected, and observer dependent. Gurudev's discourse invites us to live in harmony with these universal rhythms, to align our breath, thoughts, and actions with the cosmic intelligence. When one's inner microcosm resonates with the macrocosm, life flows effortlessly, creativity blossoms, and existence reveals itself as divine play or lila. Now, Gurudev said that when we align our consciousness with the universe, life becomes effortless. What is meant by alignment and how does one achieve it personally? Alignment with the universe means living in harmony with the universal law of existence rather than resisting it. Every being, every event has a rhythm. When our mind is noisy or driven by ego, we move out of sync with that rhythm and experience struggle. Gurudev often says effortlessness is a sign of alignment through Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, and regular sadhana. Our system gradually synchronizes with the cosmic vibration. Thoughts become clearer, actions become spontaneous, and intuition becomes stronger. We start seeing challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. For example, when a surfer aligns with the wave, they move smoothly. When they go against it, they are thrown off balance. Similarly, the moment we let go of resistance, grace takes over. Gurudev's vision of alignment isn't passive acceptance, but dynamic harmony, acting with awareness, resting in the self, and trusting in the universe's intelligence to guide our steps. In Vedic philosophy, alignment is known as samarasya, the state of inner and outer harmony. The rishis taught that through yajna, the selfless offering, the dhyana or the meditation, and swadhyaya or the self study, one can align the microcosm of the self with the macrocosm of the universe. Gurudev beautifully translates this ancient science into daily living. Alignment means that the three dimensions of our being, the body, mind, and the soul, vibrate together without friction. The breath becomes the bridge. When the breath is in rhythm, the prana flows freely and dharma naturally manifests. The Bhagavad Gita describes this as yogastha kuru karmani, be established in yoga and then act. This is not mystical theory, but a practical spirituality. When we meditate, chant, and perform homas, or even do seva with devotion, we are tuning our consciousness to cosmic frequencies. Alignment is the state where divine will and individual will become one. The ekam sat, the oneness that Gurudev constantly reminds us of. Now, Gurudev mentioned that karma can be transcended through awareness. How does awareness neutralize karma according to both modern psychology and Vedic thought? Yeah, the karma is essentially action and its impression on the mind. When we act unconsciously out of fear, greed, or attachment, we create deeper grooves of karma. Awareness is the light that dissolves these grooves. When we witness our emotions, thoughts, and patterns without judgment, we stop fueling them with the fresh energy. Gurudev often compares it to sunlight melting ice. The moment we observe our anger or desire without suppression or indulgence, it loses its grip. Meditation heightens this awareness and transforms reaction into conscious response. Even modern psychology affirms that when experiences are processed mindfully, they no longer manifest as compulsive behavior. Gurudev's teaching shows that karma isn't punishment but an instrument of evolution, and awareness is the catalyst that converts bondage into freedom. Now, in Vedic philosophy, the karma operates on the principle of sanchita, accumulated, the prarabdha or the current, and the agami or the future karmas. Awareness or the chaitanya acts like fire or the agni that burns the seeds before they sprout. This is why our scriptures emphasize the jnana agni dagda karmani. All actions are burnt in the fire of knowledge. When one realizes that the doer, deed, and the result are all manifestations of the same consciousness, karma loses its binding force. Gurudev's teachings on awareness resonate deeply with this. He encourages us to live consciously, to witness rather than to identify. Through self awareness, devotion, and surrender, karma becomes lila, the divine play. The very energy that bound us once begins to liberate us. In that state, life flows freely like a sacred river, returning to the ocean of consciousness. Now, Gurudev says that true intelligence lies not in knowing many things, but in recognizing the self. How does this refine and redefine the modern education and spiritual wisdom? Modern education largely focuses on accumulating data, but Gurudev emphasizes that wisdom is not about knowing more, it's about being more. When we recognize the self, the knowledge transforms from information into realization. In his words, Education should expand both intellect and intuition. The Art of Living Systems programs and Sri Sri University embody this vision, integrating ancient wisdom with the modern sciences. Gurudev says that the real intelligence manifests as sensitivity, creativity, compassion, and resilience, qualities that arise from inner stillness, not from books alone. Meditation refines the intellect and awakens the intuitive mind, enabling us to perceive life holistically. When the student understands the unity behind diversity, education becomes a means of enlightenment, not competition. Now, in the Vedic culture, the education of the Vidya was never separated from self knowledge, the Atma Vidya. The Mundaka Upanishads beautifully distinguishes between the Paravidya or the knowledge of the self and the Aparavidya or the worldly knowledge. Gurudev echoes the same vision, reminding us that the highest form of intelligence is self awareness. The ancient Gurukula system cultivated silence, observation, and contemplation as integral parts of learning. This created seers who could perceive cosmic truths. In contrast, modern education often breeds stress and fragmentation. Gurudev's teachings restore the sacredness of learning, aligning intellect with heart, logic with love, and science with spirituality. In this integration, one discovers that the knower, the known, and the knowledge are one, the Brahmaiva Satyam. Now, Gurudev explained that silence is the source of creativity and strength. Why is silence so powerful, and how can one cultivate it in daily life? Jagadish, silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness. Gurudev often says, all creativity arises from silence because silence is the womb of creation. When the mind is cluttered with noise, thoughts, worries, or desires, there is no space for intuition or inspiration. Silence refreshes the nervous system and balances the right and left hemispheres of the brain, allowing insights to emerge naturally. In the Art of Living, silence programs and meditation practices like Sahat Samadhi Dhyana help people experience this a deep inner quiet. In daily life, even short moments of mindful stillness, watching the breath, or sitting quietly before sleep reconnects us with that inner reservoir of energy. Gurudev reminds us that silence doesn't mean withdrawing from life, but engaging with a greater clarity and compassion. When we learn to rest in silence, words gain power and actions gain precision. In the Vedic tradition, silence is called mauna and it is revered as a direct part of the self. The Upanishads declare the Maunam Tapa, silence is penance through silence. The rishis heard the unstruck sound, the Anahat Nada, which is the vibration of existence itself. Gurudev's teachings beautifully translate this timeless truth into modern practice. He says that when the senses turn inward, prana stabilizes, and consciousness shines in its pure form. In that state, one experiences unity with the divine. Silence is thus not mere restraint of speech, but a profound communion with the universal consciousness. In rituals too, silence enhances the potency of mantra and yagya because the silent mind channels divine energy without distortion. For seekers today, practicing silence amidst the noise of modernity is both an art and a necessity, the key to wisdom, peace, and divine realization. Now, Gurudev emphasized that awareness of death makes life more meaningful. How can contemplating mortality enrich one's spiritual journey? Gurudev often says awareness of death brings you to the present moment. It's not morbid, it's liberating when we remember that life is temporary, trivial attachments drop away, and we start living with authenticity and gratitude. Awareness of mortality makes every breath sacred. Meditation allows us to experience a small daily a dissolution of the ego into silence, which prepares us for the ultimate transition without fear. Gurudev's Sudarshan Kriya helps dissolve deep seated impressions or samskaras that bind the mind to the body so one can experience the eternal self beyond rebirth and death. Understanding death also removes anxiety about the unknown because one realizes the continuum of consciousness. Gurudev says death is like taking off an old garment. This awareness brings humility and deep compassion toward all beings, reminding us that life's true purpose is self realization, not accumulation. Now, the Vedas describe death as a deha tyaga, the shedding of the physical sheath, not of the end of existence. The Bhagavad Gita assures the Nainam Chintani Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavakaha. The soul cannot be cut, burnt, or destroyed. Gurudev's insights align perfectly with this wisdom. Contemplating death cultivates vairagya or dispassion, which is essential for spiritual liberation. The ancient rishis practiced the antasmarana or the remembrance of the impermanent nature of the world to keep the mind anchored in the eternal. Rituals like Shraddha were designed to honor the continuum of consciousness and express gratitude to ancestors. Gurudev interprets these as reminders that life and death are two faces of the same cycle. When one understands death, fear disappears and life becomes a celebration. Thus, awareness of mortality is not an end but the beginning of freedom. Now, Gurudev mentioned that the universe communicates constantly through symbols, coincidences, and synchronicities. How can one develop sensitivity to these signs? Gurudev teaches that the universe is alive, a conscious intelligence expressing itself through patterns or consciousness. When our mind is still and intuitive, we begin to perceive these subtle messages. Often we dismiss them as a chance, but Gurudev says there are no coincidences, only connections unseen. To recognize these signs, one must cultivate inner silence, gratitude, and surrender. For instance, when you think of someone and they call, or when an opportunity arises exactly when you're ready, these are expressions of the cosmic rhythm aligning with your intention. Through meditation and Sudarshan Kriya, our sensitivity increases and we become aware of synchronicities as affirmations of divine orchestration. The universe speaks in the language of resonance, and awareness is the key to decoding it. Now, in Vedic understanding, this communication between the individual and the cosmos is called Rita, the universal order. The seers who lived in tune with Rita could interpret omens, planetary movements, or dreams as reflections of cosmic will. Gurudev reintroduces this as sacred awareness in a modern experiential form. He says that when your prana is defined and your heart is pure, the universe mirrors your inner state. The Isha Upanishads declare the Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmeva Buddha Vijanata. For the one who sees the self in all beings, all becomes one. Sensitivity to science is therefore not superstition, but higher perception and attunement to universal intelligence. The Vedic rituals of Sandhya Vandanam, mantra chanting, and Homa synchronize individual energy with cosmic energy, allowing divine communication to flow unhindered. Gurudev's teachings thus guide us to read life itself as scriptures, a continuous revelation of the sacred. Now, Gurudev said that when the Guru is in one's life, there is no fear. What is the deeper significance of the Guru's presence, both spiritually and psychologically? Gurudev's words, when you have a Guru, there is no fear, reveal a profound truth about inner guidance. A Guru is not merely a teacher, but a living embodiment of wisdom and compassion. Spiritually, the Guru represents the awakened consciousness that dispels darkness. Gu means darkness, the Ru means remover. Fear arises from ignorance, from the illusion of separation. When one connects with the Guru's presence, this illusion dissolves. Psychologically, having a Guru offers immense stability. The Guru acts as a mirror to our higher self, reminding us of who we truly are beyond our conditioning. Gurudev often says the Guru is not outside of you, it's the light of awareness within you. Through regular satsang, seva, and sadhana, one strengthens this inner connection even when the physical Guru is not present. Their energy guides the devotee intuitively. Fear disappears because the mind feels held by infinite intelligence, like a child in the mother's arms. In Vedic philosophy, the Guru is revered as the Brahma, the Vishnu, and the Maheshwara, the creator, the preserver, and the transformer of spiritual wisdom. The Guru Gita says, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara. The Guru is not a person but the principle of enlightenment manifesting through a realized being. In the Upanishads, the disciple approaches the Guru with humility, saying, Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, lead me from darkness to light. The Guru transmits knowledge not through words alone but through vibration, a direct transmission of consciousness. On the Shakti part, Gurudev's presence awakens the dominant energy or Kundalini within seekers, aligning their inner channels or nadis with the cosmic rhythm. Fear is simply the absence of trust. In the Guru's grace, trust becomes natural and life grows fearlessly and flows fearlessly. Thus, the Guru is both the outer guide and the inner compass, leading the soul from confusion to freedom. Now, Gurudev compared the Guru to a lifeguard, suggesting protection even when unseen. How does the Guru's energy safeguard a disciple in both physical and subtle dimensions? The metaphor of a lifeguard beautifully captures the essence of divine protection. Gurudev says that when one walks the spiritual path with sincerity, unseen forces of grace begin to operate. The Guru's energy field is vast, a consciousness that transcends time and space, just as the lifeguard keeps watch even when the swimmer is unaware. The Guru's awareness envelops a disciple, guiding them through karmic waves and mental turbulence. Many practitioners have shared experiences of narrowly escaping danger or receiving intuitive nudges during crisis moments when they felt the Guru's presence unmistakably. This is not coincidence but energetic resonance. Through initiation, chanting, and meditation, the devotee's subtle body becomes attuned to the Guru's frequency. When this alignment deepens, protection is automatic, not as interference but with the destiny, but as a graceful navigation through it. Fear transforms into surrender, and surrender invites miracles. The Vedic scriptures affirm that the Guru's status or spiritual radiance pervades all realms. In Skanda Purana, it is said, Guru Kripahi Kevalam Srishyam Paramam Sukham. The disciples' highest joy and safety lie in the Guru's grace. This grace functions through Adhyatma Bala or the spiritual strength. Just as a mother senses her child's distress from afar, the Guru's consciousness vibrates in harmony with the disciples' soul. Ancient seers perform the Guru Upasana or meditating on the Guru's form as a symbol of the Supreme Self. To remain in that protective energy, Gurudev's guidance to chant, meditate, and perform seva keeps this connection vibrant. Even after the Guru leaves the physical plane, their energy continues to guard sincere seekers. It is said that remembering the Guru with devotion erects a subtle shield around the aura, repelling negativity and confusion. In this way, Guru's grace acts as both protection and propulsion toward liberation. Now, Gurudev spoke of ancient practices like applying subtle paste or sacred ash to prevent mental entanglement. How does this connect to the science of subtle energy and aura purification? Gurudev's reference to applying subtle paste or vibhuti on the forehead reflects deep understanding of energy anatomy. The area between the eyebrows, the Agya chakra, is the command center of awareness. It governs intuition and mental clarity. Ancient sages discovered that sacred substances like sandalwood, turmeric, and ash carry high vibration frequencies. When applied to the skin, they stabilize the prana or the life force and insulate the mind from external disturbances. Gurudev says that just as we practice hygiene for the body, energetic hygiene is equally vital for the mind. The tilak or bhasma acts as a spiritual firewall, maintaining mental sovereignty in a world full of emotional contagion. Regular meditation, chanting, and pranayama further cleanse the aura, creating a protective biofield that radiates peace. Modern research in bioenergetics and frequency medicine now validates this, showing that intention and vibration influence the human energy field profoundly. Now, the Vedas and the Agamas prescribe the application of Tripundra or the three horizontal lines of ash or the Urdhva Pundra or the vertical mark not as symbols of sectarian identity but as tools of subtle purification. Each mark corresponds to an energy channel or nadi on the forehead, the Ida, Pingla, and the Sushumna, the triad governing the mental and the pranic balance. The sacred ash or vibhuti represents the dispassion, the reminder that all material forms end in dust. The cooling sandalwood paste represents purity and calmness, aligning one's consciousness with sattva or balance. Gurudev's discourse reveals that these rituals were not superstition, but sophisticated spiritual technology designed to maintain energetic integrity. When the Agya chakra is purified and sealed with awareness, external vibrations cannot easily influence the mind. Thus, these traditional practices are as relevant today as they were in Vedic times, perhaps even more in an age overloaded with digital and emotional noise. Now, Gurudev mentioned that ancient practices were designed to keep the mind from being attracted or attached to others' minds. How does this concept relate to the modern ideas of energy boundaries and psychological detachment? Jagadev, Gurudev's insight touches a timeless truth. The mind is not isolated, it is part of a collective field. The thoughts and the emotions and the intentions are subtle vibrations that move between people just as radio waves fill the air. When he said the ancients put sandal paste or ash on their foreheads to prevent the mind from getting attached to others' minds, he was referring to a very real energetic phenomenon. Just as we protect our physical health through hygiene, we must maintain mental hygiene through awareness and spiritual practices. Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, and mantra chanting act as inner purifiers, cleansing emotional residues and maintaining strong energetic boundaries. In modern physiology and psychology, we speak of empathic overload or emotional contagion, absorbing others' stress or negativity. Gurudev's teachings give practical tools to prevent this, not by withdrawing, but by strengthening one's center. When the mind rests in awareness, it becomes like a lotus untouched by the muddy waters around it. Now, in the Vedic worldview, the mind, the manas, is part of a subtle energy body called Sukshma Sharira. Every interaction leaves impressions or samskaras that influence our behavior and karma. Ancient rituals like applying vibhuti, chanting mantras, or performing trikalsandhya were ways to cleanse and seal these subtle channels. The forehead, the seat of the Agya Chakra, is psychic gateway. By consecrating it daily, one maintains sovereignty over their own consciousness. Gurudev's observation links this ancient science to modern energy psychology. Today, when people spend hours on social media and digital platforms, their energy becomes fragmented. The ancients intuitively knew this danger and created rituals to anchor consciousness inward. In essence, these were techniques of prana shuddhi or purification of life force, ensuring that one's awareness remains luminous, self-contained, and aligned with the divine will rather than absorbed by external vibrations. The Gurudev spoke about how the Guru becomes the first consciousness one experiences after death. How does this understanding transform one's view of mortality and rebirth? When Gurudev said that at the moment of transition, the first person to come into your consciousness is your Guru, he was describing a sacred phenomenon beyond the physical realm. For a disciple, the Guru represents a bridge between the finite and the infinite. During death, as prana withdraws from the body, the mind's impressions arise one after another. The presence of the Guru, even as a subtle vibration, guides the soul through this process, ensuring peace and direction. Gurudev often explains that the Guru's energy acts as a beacon, much like a lighthouse guiding ships through fog. This transforms one's view of death from fear to trust. When you live in the Guru's awareness, you die in awareness, seamlessly transitioning to subtler dimensions. Rebirth then becomes a conscious journey rather than an unconscious compulsion. Thus, devotion to the Guru is not an emotional dependency, but an alignment with the eternal consciousness. Now, the Garud Purana and the Kathopanishad describe how the soul, upon leaving the body, travels guided by its karma and awareness. The memory of the Guru, when deeply embedded through devotion or bhakti and meditation or dhyana, becomes the soul's anchor in this passage. Smriti or remembrance determines the soul's next destination. The Gita says, the anta kalecha mam iva smaran mukta ke kalevanam. He who remembers me at the time of death attains me. Gurudev's presence in the disciples, his consciousness fulfills his verse. In the Vedic Dharma tradition, the Guru is considered one with Ishvara, a living embodiment of the Absolute. Thus, remembering the Guru at death is remembering God. When this awareness ripens, the rebirth becomes optional, not compulsory. The disciple may merge into the Guru's consciousness, the infinite ocean of light. Gurudev's teaching thus redefines mortality as a sacred homecoming, not an end. Now, Gurudev highlighted that when there is no Guru, there is no hope. How does the Guru's guidance ignite faith and purpose in seekers facing life's uncertainties? Jagadav Gurudev often says the Guru brings meaning where there was confusion, and light was there where there was despair. In a world filled with information but lacking wisdom, a true Guru restores the inner direction. Faith or the Shraddha is not blind belief, but deep trust in life's benevolence. To the Guru's teachings, one learns to see challenges as opportunities and pain as purification. Gurudev's presence transforms even ordinary moments into sacred revelations. Seekers who once felt lost rediscover enthusiasm or utsaha and purpose through seva and sadhana. The Guru awakens the Atma Vishwas, or the confidence rooted in the self, not in external validation. Psychologically, this faith heals anxiety and loneliness. Spiritually, it aligns the individual with universal rhythm. Thus, the Guru is not worshipped as a personality but revered as a compass that always points towards the divine. Now, the scriptures proclaim the Acharyavam Purusha Veda. Only the one guided by a true teacher attains a knowledge. The Guru represents the Adesha, the divine instruction, which brings order to the chaos of worldly existence. In the Brihandakarya Upanishad, even gods and demons sought counsel from their Guru Prajapati to learn self restraint. Gurudev revives this lineage of wisdom in modern times. His discourses, his techniques, and compassion guidance rekindle the Shraddha and seekers who have forgotten the sacred dimension of life. Hope arises because the Guru's presence assures that the journey has direction and meaning. In essence, the Guru awakens the dharmic intelligence, the innate knowing of what sustains harmony. Thus, Gurudev's word, without a Guru, there is no hope, reminds us that true freedom is not isolation, but a connection to lineage, to wisdom, and to the infinite source of love within. Now, finally, Gurudev said that those who have a guru have no problem. How can this statement be understood beyond literal meaning as a state of consciousness rather than circumstance? When Gurudev says that those who have a guru have no problem, he doesn't mean life becomes free from challenges. Rather, once his perception transforms, Problems are seen as waves on the ocean, transient ripples on the surface of stillness. The Guru helps the disciple shift identity from the small self to the infinite self. When you operate from that expanded awareness, even difficulties become expressions of divine play. The Gurudev's teachings cultivate sahajta or naturalness and sambatva or equanimity, enabling one to respond with wisdom instead of reaction. Meditation, Sudarshan Kriya, and Seva integrate this consciousness into daily life. In that state, joy becomes independent of circumstance, and gratitude becomes a natural breath. The no problem life is not external perfection but inner freedom. Now, the Vedas describe this state as a Sthit Pragya or unwavering wisdom. A realized person anchored in the Guru's space transcends the dualities of pleasure and pain. The Bhagavad Gita echoes this, the Dukkeshu Anudvegana, the Manas Sukheshu Vigyatas Praha. One who remains undisturbed in sorrow and detached in joy is established in wisdom. The Guru imparts stability not by solving problems but by awakening divine perspective. In Guru Gita, it is said that Guru Kripahi Kevalam Shishyasa Paramam Sukham. The disciple's supreme happiness lies in the Guru's grace. Gurudev's statement thus points to a realization when consciousness abides in the Guru Tattva, the principle of light dualities to solve problems may exist, but they no longer bind. This is true liberation to live amidst the world untouched, radiant, and peaceful as Gurudev embodies. Say Gurudev.